Thank you again to DJ Save Your Breath, who is mixing Sinatra with Hoboken, and the boss, who is the boss, and Mare Trevathan from local theater, Colorado Shakespeare Company. Yes. Amazing job. So the way this works is we meet on the second Sunday of each month. There are different guest stars. Oh, I can show you a lot of exciting things. This is our housekeeping section. So this is the advanced poster. You're the first people in the world to see it for next month. We're having Frankie and Floyd, which is a Pink Floyd, Frank Sinatra mashup acoustic duo opening. If I look familiar, it's because I'm one half of it. It's going to be very interesting.
Tell them about the Latin.
So the Latin inscription, I don't think it was very late one night, but one night I went to a Latin translation site, and what I wanted to say is lazy is lovely. And strangely, as it came out, this means the elbow is the favorite. So, yes. So just think about it. All you're giving me is your email and your name and your loyalty, and I will give you this incredible sticker with this incredibly strange slogan. And we say if we meet on the street, we go like this. Yeah. Elbow is at the Lazy Person's Book Club. The elbow is the favorite, not the ear, not the heart, not the brain. We don't care. I don't care about your soul. The elbow is the favorite. So this is actually the theme song, not with a full band, but just with a woman and a guitar, called "Blame It on Hoboken," that goes with the book. We usually play it at the beginning, but Eric's too fabulous. I didn't want to interrupt him. No, I will. Because Paul asked, and Paul's fabulous too. Well, friends, you're in perfect timing. Oh, come in. This is really fun. Oh, yeah. Well, this is the most fun you're going to have. There's pastries, there's cocktails.
Okay.
It's a book with a theme song and booze. Blame it on the season, blame it on the weather, oh, blame it for no reason. On a feather, you can blame it on Hoboken. Stay with me, and if you know the song, you can sing. Blame it on the game, blame it on the batter, oh, blame it on my name. It doesn't matter, you can blame it on Hoboken. But baby, stay with me. Magic kicks off Saturday night when your ferry pulls in from Brooklyn Heights. The gang flags down, the love bug bites. Don't be shy, the skyline smells forever. As long as we're together, you can blame it on a fish, blame it on the ocean, oh, blame it on this kiss. If you got the notion, you can blame it on Hoboken. Yeah, you want to do your solo, blame it, baby. Trumpet solo by Miss Tina Raleigh. Don't waste that talent. I'll vamp till you get here. Second part of the trumpet solo by Miss Nina Raleigh, frequent, blame it on Hoboken, special guest. While she's eating cake, it's the Marie Antoinette Hoboken thing. We'll do it again. Ready? Yeah. Trumpet solo. Blame it on Hoboken, but baby stay with. Blame it on Hoboken, but baby stay with. Blame it, but don't hand it. Write up names and flame with it. No 2 days the same. I'd stay playing for fame on it. Blame it on Hoboken, but baby stay with me. Chapter 17. The fifth step. Carolyn walked down the cobblestone alley that led to the Friends of Frank's club. Her heart was pounding, but her feet weren't listening to her fear. They kept moving toward the door at the end of the alley. She was thinking about the sign on the door of the club and the bouncer who guarded the entrance on the first night she came here. But in the light of day, the club looked like a much more approachable place. The sign beside the door read, "Members only," but no one was guarding the entrance. That made sense, Carolyn thought. It was 6 o'clock and the show didn't start till 8. But then, as if she'd summoned him, she saw the bouncer walking down the alley toward the club. He was wearing a sweatshirt and jeans in place of his daunting blue suit, but she recognized his signature shape. Flat top haircut, extra broad shoulders, biceps arguing with the limits of his shirt sleeves. Carolyn ducked into the shadow of the nearest doorway. Oh, it wasn't much of a hiding spot, but it would have to do. Fortunately, the bouncer seemed to be focused on his destination. He walked past her, pulled the door open, and walked into the club. Carolyn watched. She imagined the bouncer would have used a secret code or a secret knock to enter the building. She counted to 10, and then she followed him through the unlocked door into the club. "O solitude, thou true, thou lovely." The poet, Enid Hobb, could have written those verses about the Friends of Frank's Club at 6 o'clock in the evening. The room buzzed with excitement at night, but now there was no music playing and no crowd chatter. The only sound Carolyn heard was sharp yet muted, like metal on something dull. The only light in the room came from the electric candles set out on the VIP tables near the dance floor. Carolyn tiptoed to an extra shadowy section of the room, by the bar. When her eyes adjusted to the dim indoor light, she took a cautious step forward and studied the room. The Friends of Frank, 4 Sinatra impersonators, were eating at a large round table near the stage. This was the source of the sound that she heard, silverware on plates. The Friends of Frank were arranged, youngest to oldest, around the table. If you assessed their positions using true north as 12 o'clock, Carolyn noticed the youngest Frank sat at 3 o'clock. An elegantly dressed woman sat beside each Frank. She recognized the other diners as the club's bouncer and its head bartender. Carolyn remembered him from her night at the club with Jimmy Foss. He was a tall, skinny man with pomaded hair and a pinky ring set with a bright blue stone. Carolyn turned her attention from the diners to their meal. Her hiding spot gave her a perfect view of the table. The silverware appeared to be silver. The glasses, crystal. She noted a large bowl of pasta and a platter of steaks and a big bowl of something green. Carolyn inhaled. She smelled tomatoes, basil, and a dash of garlic. Her stomach rumbled. I'm trying that. That's the sassy stomach. The sound echoed through the acoustically resonant club. The entire table turned and looked in her direction. Carolyn ducked behind the bar. The good news was the Franks were dining in relatively bright light, and that made her hiding spot harder to see. She hoped.
Hey, you, whoever you are.
The youngest Frank Sinatra jumped to his feet.
We know you're there, whoever you are. No fans allowed. Scram, you hear me? You heard him, whoever you are. Vamoose.
The second Frank followed the first Frank's lead. Carolyn could not help noticing that he was wearing his napkin tucked into the collar of his shirt. He wasn't that scary, she decided.
If you're smart, you'll scram on your own.
The third Frank Sinatra
If
said.
not, we have ways of making you leave forever.
Oh, please. Carolyn heard one of the elegant women at the table groan.
What, you think I couldn't make that happen?
Oh, of course I do, dear. Of course I do. Pass the salt.
Dames.
The third Sinatra said.
Can't live with them, can't live without them.
Nice try. The first 3 Franks had said a lot, but it was the 4th Frank's message that scared Carolyn. He hadn't joined the conversation. Instead, he'd been studying the steaks on the platter in front of him with the look of a hunter assessing his prey. And now, he impaled the biggest steak on his fork and lowered the rare piece of meat onto his plate.
Gotcha,
he said. And then he reached for a knife. It was a very shiny, very sharp-looking knife. Okay. Carolyn stepped to the light. I admit it, I'm sorry. I broke into your club, and I promise I'm going to leave, but I can't leave right away. You see, I have a question, a really important question, or maybe 2 questions. And I think you have the answer to it, or all of them, or maybe just some of them, but that would be okay.
Well, if that ain't the most confused speech you ever heard.
The head bartender mumbled.
I'm here, but I'm leaving. I just got 1 question. Or is it 2? Who does this girl think she is, Alice in Wonderland?
Sorry, Carolyn said again. You're right. What I said must have just sounded a little vague, but what I meant to say is, I know I shouldn't be here, but if you'd be kind enough to answer a couple of questions for me, I promise I'll go. The questions are for a really good cause, Carolyn added. Oh, so you're here for like a cause, like a fundraiser, the woman beside the third Frank said. Oh, in that case, I think your being here is okay. The Friends of Frank's Ladies Auxiliary Club is a proud supporter of local charities. Which one do you represent? This is more of a personal cause, Carolyn said. You see, a friend of mine has disappeared, and I think you, the Franks, or should I say the Misters Sinatra, can help me find him.
You hear that, everyone?
The fourth Frank, the chairman of the board, looked up from his plate.
Miss Breaking and Entering here thinks we should help her. I'm not so sure about that.
The man looked at Carolyn with his cold blue eyes. Carolyn's stomach growled again, but from nerves this time. She matched the fourth Frank's stare. I didn't mean to imply that you should help me, she told him. That decision's up to you, but I think you could help me if you chose to.
You see?
The bartender grumbled.
There she goes again with the Alice in Wonderland it is, but it isn't talk.
Hey, the help I'm asking for isn't a one-way thing, Carolyn continued. If you help me, I can help you.
This I find interesting.
The eldest Frank said. The diamond ring on his finger flashed as he waved his hand, inviting her to approach the table.
Please. So tell us, Miss...
Carolyn?
It's very nice to meet you, Miss Carolyn. Now tell me, please, how can we help you help us?
Well, the other night at your club, you said life isn't fair and luck ain't a lady.
But that's life.
The three younger Franks chimed in.
Oh, so you're a journalist of some kind?
The chairman of the board asked. Oh, no, I'm not a journalist. I'm a tour guide.
Stop right there.
The chairman of the board interrupted her.
You want to bring the general public here with their flashbulbs and their walking shorts and their sensible shoes? Well, the answer is no. Followed by, get out of here.
But Carolyn said the conversation had taken a wrong turn. The eldest Frank held up his hand.
Security! Escort Miss Carolyn here to the street and lock the door after her. And tomorrow change the lock. This young lady, this tour guide, has nothing we need.
The bouncer walked up to Carolyn and reached for her arm. Are you sure? Carolyn pulled the black vinyl shard from her pocket. The chairman of the board held out his hand. Carolyn handed him the record fragment she found in Jimmy's apartment. Is this what I think it is?
Is that what I think it is?
He said, holding the fragment up to the light and turning it around as if studying a precious object, which it was. Well, that's what I came to ask you.
Ah, jeez.
The head bartender said.
Now both of them are talking in Wonderland. Vinnie Frank.
The chairman of the board said from his place at high noon to the youngest Frank.
Bring Miss Carolyn a seat.
The youngest Sinatra wrangled a chair from one of the empty tables in the VIP area.
Where would you like it? Put her here.
The chairman of the board said, sliding over to create a space between him and the woman seated at 11 o'clock.
Marty Frank. Let's offer Miss Carolyn a plate.
The second Frank obliged.
Bobby Frank, please pass Miss Carolyn the manicotti and gravy. Here you go.
The third Frank handed Carolyn the platter of pasta.
And now, you'll eat.
The chairman of the board told Carolyn. Could we talk while I eat? She asked, picking up a forkful of manicotti.
You eat, and then we'll talk. That's my mother's recipe. She'd turn over in her grave if she saw you talking with your mouth full.
The chairman of the board raised his wine glass.
Salute.
Salute, Carolyn echoed.
How Alice is that?
The bartender said.
The lady toasts with her dinner instead of her wine.
Oh, the three younger Franks were in agreement.
So what do you think?
The chairman of the board asked Carolyn. Wow, that was her first honest response. I mean, this sauce is amazing.
It's gravy.
Everyone else at the table said. I'm sorry, Carolyn said. I mean, it's gravy. And it's, how do you say, delicioso.
Not bad.
The fourth Frank said.
The accent's terrible, but at least she's trying. Go on, eat. We'll wait. Do we have to?
The bouncer said.
We got cannoli for dessert. I love cannoli.
Well, that'd be fine with me, Carolyn told the bouncer.
You will eat.
The chairman of the board told Carolyn.
And you will wait.
He told the bouncer.
Fine.
The big man crossed his muscled forearms and stared at Carolyn. I'll try to be fast, she told him.
You take your time.
the chairman of the board said.
To get agita from my mother's man of God would be a big disrespect. The rest of you talk amongst yourselves. We'll be having coffee and cannoli shortly, but that doesn't mean we're gonna rush. So come on, talk. Small talk. Now.
Carolyn turned her attention to the dinner. The table small talked around her as commanded.
So, Vinnie Frank, who do you pick to win the big game? So, I'm Barbara.
The woman sitting next to Carolyn said. She was a portrait in 1960s Jersey chic.
I'll go on.
Her dark hair was teased high and her dress was with a very colorful geometric pattern. Her long fingernails were filed round and painted a color really close to her skin. Barbara Sinatra? Carolyn couldn't help it. She said the words aloud. See, Barbara was the name of Frank Sinatra's fourth wife, and this woman, it seemed, was married to the fourth Frank, to the friend of Frank's chairman of the board.
I know, what are the chances, right?
The woman smiled at Carolyn. Barbara pointed to the chairman of the board.
On stage, the guys are all Francis Albert Sinatra. Off stage, they use the first name their mama gave them, plus Frank. So here, my husband is the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra. No question. But outside here, his friends call him Tommy Frank.
Well, what should I call him?
Start with Sir. It's a sign of respect. And the Franks are big fans of respect, as you may have noticed. Not bad, huh?
The chairman of the board pointed at Carolyn's plate.
You enjoy your dinner, Miss Carolyn?
The chairman of the board asked. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's nice. Miss Carolyn here has old school manners. I like that. And now that she's finished eating, let's take a look at the little gift she brought us.
Tommy Frank picked up the vinyl shard that Carolyn had found in Jimmy's apartment.
We shall see.
He said and walked backstage with it.
Well, well, well.
Carolyn heard him say from behind the stage curtain.
What have we here?
The chairman of the board returned from backstage. He was holding up a broken vinyl record. The disc was missing a piece, and the empty shape looked familiar.
Well, Miss Wonderland.
The eldest Frank fitted the shard into the damaged disc.
Look at that. It fits.
Well, no. Huh. The other Franks agreed.
Great. Alice in Wonderland is now Cinderella.
The head bartender grumbled. Well, technically, I'm actually the prince, Carolyn told him. You see, I brought you the missing shoe, so to speak, by bringing you the shard that fit your record.
Don't push your luck.
The bartender said.
So, Miss Carolyn, where did you find this exactly?
The chairman of the board asked. Well, at my friend's apartment. He has a really great collection of Sinatra records.
Well, as it happens, our little club used to have a pretty great collection of original Sinatra vinyl recordings. Used to have. Had. Until someone took them. A very knowledgeable someone. Someone who knew the good stuff and how to get it. To this day, the identity of that villain has remained a mystery. Then what do you know? Last night, out of the blue, our missing box of recordings reappears. Nothing damaged, with one exception. A record with a missing piece, which we assume will be missing forever. But now, thanks to you, our collection is complete once more. Is it in perfect condition? No. But that's okay. Perfection is overrated. Does my lack of materialism surprise you, Miss Carolyn? You look surprised.
Oh, it's just that, I'm sorry, but did you say perfection is overrated?
I did. But honesty, that's another matter. You sneak into our club tonight like a thief, with a very touching story about a missing friend who you say is a thief. You see where I'm going? Who's to say you're not the thief? Aha!
The other Franks grumbled. Oh, please, the third Frank's wife said. Use your eyes. This young woman is not a thief. She's a returner. She deserves a reward. And instead, you're giving her grief. You want to know why people don't do nice things more often? This is why, I'm telling you.
I agree.
The chairman of the board said.
This girl's a straight arrow. So here's what we're going to do. First, I will apologize for my insinuations. Miss Carolyn, I apologize for implying that you were a thief. You are, in fact, a very good person.
Apology accepted, the third Frank's wife said. Just try to speed things along, she said to Carolyn. We can't have dessert or coffee till he stops talking.
I can hear you, by the way.
The fourth Frank told the third Frank's wife. Good, the third Frank's wife said. Maybe you'll get the hint and get the show moving here. We need to finish our meal before the real show starts, you know what I mean?
Nothing I can do about it.
The third Frank told the chairman of the board.
She was born outspoken. Personally, I gotta admit though, I like it. The lady's got guts.
Your love and a cannoli would make my night, the third Frank's wife said.
Okay,
The chairman of the board said.
I'll be brief. Miss Carolyn here has returned something of great value to us. As a gesture of our sincere thanks, the Friends of Franks will give her a VIP seat to tonight's performance. Drinks, show, the whole works. What do you say?
Oh, okay. The other Franks and their wives applauded.
I agree, it is a very generous thing for us to do. Well, let me tell you something. Giving Miss Carolyn a VIP seat in our club is a strategic move, too. Her friend is a patron of ours, so she says. She's looking for him. And if he shows up here, we can have a little chat with him, too. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I suggest you take your cannoli to go. The Franks have a show to dress for.
The chairman of the board headed backstage. The bouncer led Carolyn to a VIP table and brought her a glass of wine. Elegantly clad patrons began to fill the room. She scanned the crowd for Jimmy.
Ladies and gentlemen!
The MC heralded the start of the show. The band leader took his place behind the piano. The band took their seats and tuned their instruments.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Frank Sinatra!
The first Frank sang. The crowd cheered. The second Frank Sinatra began to sing. Jimmy had left his apartment. He might have left the state or the country, Carolyn thought as she listened, but he would not break his connection to the Franks. Intermission was starting. Carolyn accepted another drink from the waiter. On the night that she'd met Jimmy, he had jumped on stage during intermission to prove something that seemed impossible at first. But it was true. Only she could see him. Oh, she'd had her doubts at first, but when Jimmy stood beside the third Frank and sang a duet with him, she understood. She was the only one who saw him, and the duet was the only one that she could hear. The Frank stage was being guarded by 3 large men, just as it had been on the night she met Jimmy. Carolyn got up from her table and walked up to the stage. She was a VIP. That was what the sign on the table said. I belong on that stage, she told herself, and she honestly believed that. Fear is overrated, she reminded herself as she caught the guard's eye. Can you give me a hand up? She
Sure
asked.
thing, miss.
The guards helped her onto the stage. It was that easy and that amazing. She was looking at the room from a Frank's point of view. The candles glowed softly. The crowd looked elegant. The microphone in front of her beckoned, but it would have to wait. She walked over to the band's music stands. Each musician had a set of sheet music organized according to the band leader's set list. She found the song she was looking for, and she placed it on their stands. The lights flickered. Intermission was ending. Carolyn's heart was pounding in her ears, in a good way. The moment was scary. She prepared herself for that, but it was also fun, roller coaster fun. She hadn't counted on that. Carolyn tucked herself into a fold of the velvet curtain that separated the backstage from the stage. The band was taking its places. The crowd was chattering excitedly.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The MC called.
please welcome the one, the only...
Me! Carolyn jumped out from the curtain and grabbed the microphone. She'd seen people do it in the movies, and now she knew why. It was thrilling. Anything she said now would be heard throughout the room. Hit it, boys, she told the band, and she'd seen that in movies too, and now she understood the fun of that phrase too. Well, the band began to vamp the beginning of her song, repeating the first 4 bars of the introduction. This song is dedicated to the Franks' biggest fan, Carolyn told the crowd. Now, she had chosen this song because it was the only Sinatra tune she knew by heart, but it was fitting in a number of ways. Jimmy had sung it to her on the night they'd met. She danced with him under the lemon tree in his apartment. It was a perfect way to tell him how sorry she was. You can blame it on the season, blame it on the weather, oh, blame it for no reason. On a feather you can blame it on Hoboken, there, stay with me. Halfway through the first chorus, the magic of her VIP status, or maybe it was just her adrenaline, began to fade. Carolyn began to wonder, was her voice loud enough? Was she singing too loud? Was she singing on key? But she trusted the song to do the right thing. I mean, you couldn't go wrong with a Sinatra song. And then, it was over. Carolyn paused before the microphone because, well, honestly, she didn't know what she was going to do next. Oh, but the crowd knew what to do. Woo! They cheered and applauded. Really? Carolyn didn't know another Sinatra song, but maybe the crowd would enjoy Arrow of Love. Woo! Arrow of Love! It was a modern classic in the making. She turned to ask the band if they knew the tune, but her moment at center stage was cut short by 4 very angry voices.
See? That's why you get my trust in a dame.
The third Frank pointed at Carolyn for the parting in the velvet curtain that led backstage.
Get her out of here.
The second Frank stuck his head through the gap.
Security!
The first Frank waved an angry-looking arm to the bouncer at the front door.
Coming through, people, coming through.
Carolyn was impressed at how quickly the big man moved through the room. 1 minute, he was guarding the front door. The next, he had stepped onto the stage from the dance floor in an elegant motion, bypassing the stairs entirely.
Enough funny stuff, lady.
The bouncer said into the microphone as he took hold of Carolyn's arm.
You're coming with me.
The big man's words were big man tough. But his body language was saying something different. He was holding onto Carolyn's arm with a gentle, almost tender grip. Was she imagining things, or was the man on her side? Carolyn looked up at the bouncer's face. He looked down, smiled, and winked at her.
Way to go, lady.
He whispered.
That was some show you put on up there.
She mistook his sincerity for irony at first. I didn't mean any disrespect, honestly. I was just trying to get a message out to my friend.
Whatever you were trying to do, you sounded great. So here's how it's gonna go. I'm gonna kick you out of the club because that's my job. But when we get outside, would you give me your autograph? You got a voice on you, lady, and a style. When you're a famous singer, I want to be able to say I knew her when.
Oh, but I'm not a singer.
You were tonight. You can't lie to me, I was there. Okay, so maybe the notes weren't pitch perfect. But while you were singing up on that stage, I felt for just a second like the real Frank was in the house. The song mattered to you. The whole place got that message, clear as a bell.
But did my friend get the message? Because that was the point.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But he will now.
The bouncer pulled a small audio recorder from his jacket pocket.
I got a little side business going in bootleg Friends of Frank tapes. I got a pretty large subscription list for it too, almost 1,000 names. I sell them a new tape each week. $20, easy money. Happy fans. You get my drift? I got the distribution. The guys pretend they don't know, but they know. It's an ego thing. The more folks that hear them sing, the happier they are. And if I make a few bucks, no one complains. Now, nothing in this world is certain. So I'm speaking hypothetically here. But let's say this crazy broad crashes the Frank stage one night. She gets recorded as part of that night's tape. And oops, the tape gets sold with a crazy broad singing on it. The Franks don't know she's on the recording, but all their fans are gonna hear the broad singing and they're gonna tell their friends. Because when is the last time something like this happened? Never. And that's news. And if your friend is a fan of the Franks, again, nothing's certain, but chances are.
Thank you! Carolyn stood on her tiptoes to kiss the big man's cheek.
Ah, fake Frank.
The bouncer said.
We talk about broads and respect and cement shoes and bacala in this place. But it's all about love. We call it music, but it's about the love. I mean, really, when you get down to it, what else is there?
That is such a beautiful thing for you to say.
Yeah, well, beauty and a token will get you on the subway.
Well, that's what the bouncer said, but once again, his body language belied his tough words. He was smiling.
It's been nice talking to you, but I got a club to run. And you've done your work for tonight. Trust me. You sing a song the way you did tonight, the message is gonna get out. Now, if you wouldn't mind,
You want me to autograph your arm? Carolyn said as she uncapped the pen he handed her.
it's a template for the tattoo I'm gonna get later tonight.
You're going to tattoo my autograph on your arm? What if I never sing another song in public again?
That's life.
The bouncer said, walking back into the club. The heavy door swung behind him. Carolyn headed back up at the alley to the ferry to Manhattan. The ride seemed to last a minute, maybe two. She wasn't ready to go home yet, though, and so she sat on a bench by the river. She admired the urban scenery. Taxis queued up on the service road. Cars raced along the highway. Stars strong enough to shine through the city's skylight twinkled overhead. Waves lapped against the wooden river pilings. Carolyn sighed a sigh that could hand a taxi driver and psychologist would have identified as a hybrid of a miracle sigh and a Camus. She could blame it on the weather, or the Franks, or Hoboken. But the truth was, Carolyn had no one to blame but herself. She got up from the bench and joined the lines of people going nowhere and everywhere at once. "Damn you, Jimmy Foss," she said as she took her place in the crowd. She had believed that she could beat him at his own game. That's why she agreed to play it. But the fifth step to low, to lose something she didn't want to lose, it had caught her by surprise. Thank you. DJ, save your breath.